Hello guys, I made a really loud smacking noise then in my mouth. I've been speaking French for the last 2 hours, so when you then speak English it feels really in the teeth and mouth. So, this is a video about questions. I've done one of these before and I've written things on the board, but this is really just a systems video for questions. This is aimed at anybody who wants to understand how to do questions in French, also including, you know, people I work with, I teach, so this is out to Ginny, this is for Claire, people who are at that kind of level. So it's people who've got all the grammar down, got all the tenses, the moods, the subjunctive, got pronouns down, and then we really want to take it up a level to how we ask questions. So why are questions important? They're important because it's how we have a conversation backwards and forwards between two people. For exams, they're really important to be able to understand the question that someone's asking you. And although it's unlikely in an exam that you will ask a question back like you would in a normal conversation, it's really important that you know the different ways of asking a question. Why else are questions important to cover? We have different ways of asking questions in French. You know, English tends to have, it's pretty much locked down. The question word will come first and then we'll have a sentence in the appropriate tense. French is a little bit more difficult. We have different ways of asking the questions, which I'm about to go on to. And finally, this method is really important because a lot of you are making really big progress, great progress, with the listening methods. So you've heard other French, you've said other French, your brain is trying to give you other French that you've heard, and it's sometimes jumbling it up. So let's have a quick clarify, let's have a quick clear up of what we're going to do in French questions. So the bottom line is, there are 3 main methods to ask a question in French. Number 1, tone of voice. That means you are going to say a statement, a sentence, that on its own would be, on its own could be a sentence, and then your voice is going to go up. So he's French, the sentence is il est français. He's French, I mean I'm exaggerating, il est français, question mark, okay? So this is even before you have question words, okay? If you're doing this with question words, interrogative, so when, why, who, how, all this business. So let's just quickly make sure we've got those. So the word for why is pourquoi, the word for how is comment. I can hear the police horses coming past the house. The word for who is, and I shall put these underneath, the word for who is qui, the word for when is quand, the word for, what have we had? So we've had why, pourquoi, when, quand, who, qui, how, comment. Now what, we have 3 choices, okay? And I've talked about what, and there is a video on what. What we will come to in this video, but the main thing with what is to go and find that video. I will try and pop the link underneath, which is that you are using different expressions with what, and we will touch those in a minute. Okay, so that's basically our question setup. So what am I trying to get across? If you are asking a question in the simplest way possible in French, the least formal way, you are going to give your sentence starting with the person, and then you'll have the question word on the end if necessary, or not even. So for example, he's French, start with he. Il est français? Il est français, lui? He's French, him? Yeah, okay. So it's almost like you're making a statement. It's a French, he's French. C'est un français. C'est un français? He's French, okay. So we don't need the is it that he is French method just yet. If we're using a question word, so where are you going? We will have you are going where? Tu vas où? Hey toi, tu vas où? Where are you going? Yeah, you're going where? Tu vas où? So we will have you are going where, okay? Notice you are going is still in the normal order, yeah, like a sentence, you are going, and we stick the question word on the end, okay? You're arriving when? Tu arrives quand? You arrive when? Tu arrives quand? Notice I'm having this pretend conversation with someone over there, okay? Tu arrives quand, okay? Why are you coming? Tu viens pourquoi? Yep, now, tu viens, how do you speak? Tu parles comment? Yeah, tu viens pourquoi sounds a bit odd, okay? But the point is, this is one of the methods that will happen. Now, that method really relies on a tone of voice. I wouldn't be writing it down, even though you'd have the question mark. It's the simplest form you can have. It's very informal. Okay? With that method, we have a couple of things to remember. Firstly, the word for what using that method will be quoi. Okay? As opposed to qu'est-ce and que, which I'm coming to later. So, you're drinking what? Tu prends quoi? You drink what? You take what? Tu bois quoi? Tu fais quoi? You're doing what? So the word for what, when using this method, that means starting with the sentence and then having the question word, will be what. But it's not the most formal, method of doing it. We will be using the qu'est-ce que tu fais, all this business, in another section. Okay? Lovely. Next thing. I'm not saying that you have to use this method with tu. Of course not. Of course you can use Eska. Of course you can use the inversion. The inversion being, for example, où vas-tu? Where are you going? Yeah, or que fait-il? What is he doing? Okay, where you put the verb before the person. I'm just saying I want your ear to be comfortable at speed with creating these sentences. So we will talk about that with some methods at the end. I will give you some examples and we can use it. So this method is the tone of voice, otherwise known as question word at the end. He likes. What does he like? Il aime quoi? Yeah. When is he coming? Il vient quand? When did he eat? Il a mangé quand? When did he eat, the little boy? Il a mangé quand, le petit? Yeah. Okay. So, next method is the inversion. Now, I'm going to go through this one, but I don't want you to heavily obsess about this one. Okay. I don't want you to heavily obsess about this one. Okay. When you start your sentence with a question word, you are obliged to do one of two things. You are obliged to then invert the verb and the person, or you have to, unless you're using comment, and more on that later, or you have to slip in an Eska. So, let's look at the ones where we invert. So that means verb comes first, okay? Now, verb coming first is normally reserved, and we do this in English. He has eaten, has he eaten? He will come, will he come? So verbs coming first can be the only verb, yeah? Or it can be the auxiliary verb. So for example, you have spoken with Luke. Tu as parlé avec Luc. Have you spoken with Luke? As-tu parlé avec Luc? As-tu parlé avec Luc? Okay, I'm not a massive fan of them. I would say tu as parlé avec Luc. Can I quickly go back to the other method, the beginning with a person method, the simplest method? In really simple lazy French, the tu as and the tu es and any other verb which starts with the vowel will be joined to the t. So, t'as quel âge? How old are you? Ta, not even tu as. And Helen, who's somebody I teach, who's very, very capable, only just realised that you don't do that all the time. So commonplace is it in France. So he's French, you're French, t'es français, okay? Going back to the inversions then. So if you've got, for example, where does he live? So we'd have my word for where, où, then we'd go live he, où habite-t-il, okay? Where are you going? Où vas-tu? Yeah? Now, certain expressions will use different ones of these methods, but this is just so that you are used to this methodology, okay? So, if your verb has, and I've done a video on this a couple of weeks ago, if your verb is an open mouth, so a or a, for example. So, for example, where has he spoken? Not a-il, but a-t-il. We will insert a t. If it's already got a t in the word, you'll hear that. So, is he French? Est-il français? You'll hear the t. But if there's not one there, and you've got two vowels, so a-il, we'll make the a-t-il. So, has he spoken? A-t-il parlé? Has she spoken? A-t-elle parlé? Okay? Good. So, carrying on with the inversions. The inverted form of what is que, Q-U-E, que, on its own. It doesn't mean that, it means what. So what are you doing? What have I said? When you've got a question word first, you either have Eska or you have an inversion, with the exception of the word comment. Okay, so where what should we say? Let's do some more inversions. with que. So what are you doing? Que fais-tu? Yeah. What's happening? Que se passe-t-il? Yeah. What happening is it? Okay. Que manges-tu? What are you drinking? Okay. So it's really not the most common way. Okay. We will use tu fais quoi or qu'est-ce que tu fais, but you can ask a question with que, then the inverted verb, then the person. Okay. Moving on. The more formal method, and I'm not saying every single time you use vous you have to use this method, or every single time you use to you have to use the other method, but the more formal method is to try and stick in an Eska. So Eska on its own means is it that? So it's reserved for yes or no questions. So for example, there's an outcome to this question, it will be a yes or a no. So is he French would be, is it that he's French? Okay? Est-ce qu'il est français? So some things to remember about Eska. If you have est-ce que plus il or elle or il plural or elle, so he, she and they, you are going to link. Est-ce qu'il, est-ce qu'elle, est-ce qu'il, est-ce qu'elle. If you are going to have the word on, on, meaning we or informal, or generalized one does this, you will link est-ce qu'on va aller, est-ce qu'on va y aller, are we going to go there, okay? I would go on va y aller, we're going to go there. Est-ce que nous allons venir? If I'm being more formal, I would use nous. But the point is, you will also read que l'on, L'-on, which is the more formal version of the public one. Okay, so do not be afraid about that. But in your everyday speech, for the moment, I want you to link que and on as well as que and il, que and elle. Okay, quand, quel, qu'il. Okay, lovely. Quand, quel, qu'il. Yeah. So the trick is to try and stick Eska into any sentence and any question. So it's basically going to be question word plus Eska plus your normal sentence. Okay? So why are you coming? Why is it that? Then a normal sentence. There's no reversal. Why are you coming? Pourquoi est-ce que tu viens? So you've basically got pourquoi est-ce que tu viens? Pourquoi viens-tu? I'm not a fan of inversions. Tu viens pourquoi? I really prefer the short version or the pourquoi est-ce que tu viens version. The inversions don't often get said for certain verbs. It just doesn't sound that common. Or it sounds a bit dated. Like may I, instead of saying peux-je, we say puis-je, P-U-I-S-J-E. So side note again, any inversion that we're writing down will have a hyphen between, it will go the verb then the person, the subject pronoun with a hyphen. So, again, I'm not a fan of inversions. So let's go back to our method with the question word then, Eska. So when is he coming? When is it that he's coming? Quand est-ce qu'il vient? Yeah. Why are you going to go? Why is it that you are going to go? Pourquoi est-ce que tu vas venir? Tu vas y aller, you're going to go there. Why do you want to come? Why is it that you want to come? Pourquoi est-ce que tu veux venir? Tu veux venir pourquoi? Pourquoi veux-tu venir? Why want you to come is the inversion, okay? So inversions sometimes sound a little bit better if we've got one normal verb and then the infinitive and we swap the first verb. For example, vous voulez danser? Voulez-vous danser? That sounds better than just one verb on its own being inverted, I feel. Okay? So, you want to dance? Give it me on the tone of voice. Vous voulez danser? Give it me with Eska. Eska, vous voulez danser? Give me the inversion. Want you to dance. Voulez-vous danser? Okay? Which, if we wrote, would have a hyphen. Okay? Let's talk about a few other verbs then. So, if we've got quand, when, and Eska, it will always be pronounced quand est-ce que. So anytime you have the Q-U-A-N-D with a vowel, so when he, when she, quand elle, quand il, when one, quand on, we will pronounce it like a T. We never spell the T, we never write the T, but we will say this, okay? So, let's talk about a couple of other things. So when you want to say what with the verb at the beginning, we've talked about the verb at the end, the what at the end, so tu fais quoi? Tu fais quoi? We've talked about the que fais-tu. What are you doing, the more formalised version? So what have we previously said? We've said that after que, you need to have an inversion. Yeah, que.